Post the time, date, meeting place. I call this meeting to order. Can we call the roll, please?
Benovich.
Here.
Jones.
Here. Jackson.
Smothers.
Here.
Davis.
Here. Now will you all please stand and join me in the flag salute, please. Attention, salute, pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 4, review and discussion of possible action to approve minutes of the special meeting May 18th, 2009. Okay, I have a motion to approve the minutes is accepted. Second. I have a second. Jane, will you please call the roll?
Benovich.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Smothers.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes. Motion was approved. Minutes were approved. Agenda item number 5, mayor's report. Something kind of exciting that just kind of, that I know the town's been working on for a while. And I started making a lot of calls and regarding the best chemical site cleanup at station number 2. Made several phone calls and you're just hoping one of them hits. Well, the lady in Dallas, Texas, Rita Ingblum, called me a few weeks back and told me that she was going to forward this to a local lady, Rita Kochke, who's with Department of Environmental Equality. She called me last week and it came out here last Saturday or Sunday and inspected the site. She asked me some questions regarding the place that I could answer. Some of them I couldn't answer, and she sent me an email. She copied an email to me that she sent to Rita Ingblum in Texas, requesting them to a speedy cleanup of that site. She said her plan was to get that cleaned up before hurricane season, which is coming up June 1st, I think. So evidently the EPA has a certain number, a goal that they need. This fits in with their guidelines. I spoke with her today. I know we have some vehicles that the fire department uses for training over there. I spoke with her today to see a time frame that we needed to get those vehicles off. She's going to try in kind of prompting, seeing what time frame they have. She's going to follow back up with me to let me know on that. So with the fire department's help, if we could get those vehicles that belong to the fire department kind of over out of the way, I'm assuming they'll clean that up just as soon as they can get to it. So I was pretty excited about that. Other than that, the only part of the mayor's report that I'd like to talk about a little bit is Tommy Smothers here brought up a great point a couple of weeks back. Something simple and small but very symbolic. He had talked about doing a shirt for the town. This is Bethel Acres on the back, having community. We put the unity back in community, and that's our goal that I thought that was a great idea. In talking about that, we'll bring that up later on at a future meeting, but talking about the shirts and the unity part of the community, I've been really trying to work on a 4th of July celebration party, something for the community to just all get together and, forget everything for a little bit and remember our Independence Day and what this country means to us. I'm diligently working on that. I can't promise anybody, but I'm hoping that we can get something put together to have, if nothing else, something small this year where we can all get together. So anyway, that's all I have in the mayor's report. Agenda item number 6, attorney's report.
Nothing to report.
Like that, nothing to report there. Agenda item number 7, we have the clerk treasurer's report. Okay, nice job on the balance sheet. I have a motion to approve the,
Motion to accept the report and pay the bills.
I have a motion to accept the report, pay the bills.
Second.
I have a second. Please call roll, please.
Nanavich,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smothers,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes. Motion was approved, second to pay the bills. Clerk treasurer's report. We have the oil and gas report. Mr. Brooks.
We have 6 well permits for renewal this month. We have Chaparral with 4 injectors and 1 producer. Beaver Resources with 1 producer. All of them are in compliance and recommended for approval. That's all I have.
Okay. Are you seeing any of these wells, or many, if any, that are will not renew? Do you know of any that are shutting down at all? That,
No, for lack of permit or?
yes.
No,
Okay. For any other reason?
no, none have been shut down. to my
Okay.
knowledge.
Okay.
Motion to accept the oil and gas report and renew the 6 well permits.
Okay. I have a motion. And a second. Can you call roll, please?
Nanavich,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smothers,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes. Oil and gas report was approved and accepted. Fire department report.
Responded to 18 calls in May, 11 EMS calls, 1 control burn, 1 gas leak, 2 accidents, 1 car fire, 1 false alarm, 1 gasoline spill. We're starting a first responder class this month, and also starting a first responder refresher class. Senator Lassiter come up with some extra money that he gave to the fire departments in Pot County. As a result of that, every fire department in Pot County got a 17 kW generator with a switch panel. We've got to sit down and go over there and give them some prices on a concrete pad. Goes out here that runs on natural gas and standby power. Once we get these first responder classes out of there, we're going to schedule some firefighter 1 classes.
Okay. It's, and I neglected to comment at the first, and I feel bad that I didn't do this. We had a previous firefighter that was on the fire department, part of the town, outstanding member of the community, was in a near-death motorcycle accident this morning. Bill Goodnight. So if you know him, would you please keep him and his family in your prayers? It was a motorcycle. I don't know the details of it, but I just know he's a solid member of the community. So anytime something like that happens, I'd like to acknowledge that. Thanks, Paul.
All I have right now.
Okay. Agenda item number 12, review and discussion of possible action to set time and place to do an inventory of the town property.
This one,
Oh, which one did I
item
do?
10.
Oh, the budget, sorry about that. Let's move back to agenda item number 2, review and discussion of possible action regarding the budget. That's a good question. We had a meeting, what was the date of that meeting?
18.
The 18th, that we looked at the budget. we need to set another time. There's a lot of questions I have regarding the budget. Some of which on the budget that we actually have shows $0 items for most of the fire department. It has everything for the fire department under fire department expense, which is $69,000. The fire department that the fire department proposal was to $93,000. So I'm just looking for some breakdown, and hopefully we can get some breakdown between now and then of those items. Because on our balance sheet, our profit and loss budget versus actual, up through May, there's a lot of dollars spent. The budget for the whole year is 0 on every item with the exception of fire department expense. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I'm positive that we don't throw everything under expense and pay all the bills from that. So if you guys are open, I'd like to set another date to review the budget when we get some more clarification on some of these numbers. Anybody have a date that works for them? The Monday, June 15th, or we can do June 22nd. Monday work better for everybody?
Monday's there, I think.
Okay. We have June 8th, which is next week, if you guys like to jump on it pretty quick.
Probably should.
Yeah, okay. Next Monday, 9, 7 o'clock.
June 9th.
Oh, I can't be here. It'll have to be I have Boy Scouts. It'll have to be the 15th, sorry, or the 15th or the 22nd.
15th, good for me.
15th. At 7 p.m. So we're going to, do I have a motion to set a next
Motion to
budget?
have a special meeting June 15th, 7 p.m.
Okay. Okay, have a second?
Second.
Okay. Jamie, call roll on that, please.
Savage.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Smothers.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes. All right, we got 10 taken care of. 11, 12, on inventory.
No, 11.
11, fire department report. Oh, I'm sorry. Review and discussion of possible action to approve roster of elected fire department officers for 2009, 2010.
Nice meeting. We did as you asked and went over the elections.
Okay.
Fire department come back with reaffirming me as chief, Justin Bedford as assistant chief, Mike Laughlin as captain station 1, Steve Frederick as captain station 2, Rusty Tucker as lieutenant station 1.
Okay. I have some questions regarding that, which is kind of confusing to me, and I had to type down some of these questions today because there's been a lot that's evolved, and in talking to some people, I need some clarification for myself. So you did have the nominations and re-elections that night?
I asked the gentleman what the problem with the election was. They said the only problem they had was the fact that the chief matter wasn't brought up.
Okay.
We discussed why it wasn't brought up,
Which was?
because if you look at the state law, it says the chief is appointed
Okay, by
by the council,
the council, okay.
okay? And I also said to them, I'll tell you what I'll do right now, is if you guys don't want me as chief, say so, I'll step down tonight and we'll take a vote. If you want me as chief, vote yes. If you don't want me as chief, vote no. And we took a vote. Overwhelming majority was to keep me as chief.
Okay, I have some questions about that. I appreciate you pointing that out. During a phone conversation you and I had a while back, you said you weren't at, the officers weren't nominated in the March meeting, I guess it was, because you weren't at that meeting? February? Because you weren't at that meeting.
Nominations were not open.
Were not open, and Steve forgot to do it that night?
Correct.
Okay. So you didn't have the nominations, so You're saying that,
Nominations are open next month. They're usually open in February. They stay open from February, and they close in March.
okay. So
So
they were
actually, they
open,
stay open until April. They're closed in April. We hold the election in April.
okay, so they were open later on then?
Yes, they were open in March. Went over again in April. There was no reason for an election because there was only one candidate for each office.
Okay, so you did open the nominations back again at your last meeting and have those re-elected?
Right.
Okay. How were those tabulated? Those votes tabulated?
Counted. Secret ballot. People write on a piece of paper.
Okay,
Well, if you only have one person, there's no tabulation.
so who was one person? You? Or what?
For which office are you talking about?
Well, all of them.
Well, if there's only one person nominated for assistant chief,
Okay,
there's no vote.
okay, and so,
Just like if one person files for a council seat, and there's no opposition, there's no vote.
okay. So my follow-up question then, I guess, is that you stated that there was no reason to vote on the chief's position because he was appointed by the town, but you didn't feel necessary to go ahead and open the nominations and follow a process for over the next month period for those guys to vote on that? That was what's really confusing to me. Furthermore, what was even more convincing, as much as I respect Mr. Stiles, having a private citizen count the votes and be part of that election,
Nonpartisan.
okay, that's interesting.
Mike, I have a
No, sir. We have a motion on the, I have a motion to, not to accept the roster of elected fire department officers.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Jane, we call roll, please.
Panovich,
No?
Jones,
Yes.
Smothers,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes. We will definitely take this up at a further meeting. Moving on to agenda item number 9, review and discussion possible action to set time and place to do an inventory of town property. And looking through the building out there, there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure is very necessary for the town. I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to inventory. I know there was inventory done in the past, but I think that we need to inventory what we have, possibly have an auction or a sealed bid type thing for some of the equipment. I know we have a lot of aging equipment. I'm sure that there's some around the building that we have. That's my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think about the town inventory of the property, if we just need to do an inventory or if we need to hold off for later on.
We need to do
Everything
it.
up in that one tree inventory.
Okay.
Should have a sticker on it.
My concern is we don't have an updated list of the actual inventory that I see.
Inventory of what been stickered, we have that list.
Well,
Should be in the clerk's office.
the thing that, do you have an inventory list? That's my point. The thing that confuses or that concerns me is that I found a weed eater out in the well house that was sitting there for months. So if that's the way that we're taking care of our property, I want to make sure that we know where all of that is. I don't think it's uncommon for us to have an inventory and to have that. So we held this over for this meeting, so we need to decide on what we want to do on an inventory or how we want to handle that. You guys have any ideas on inventory?
We need to pull everything out of that barn. The old transmissions that are leaking fluid into the ground need to be disposed of. If there's something in there that's broken, if there's a lot of stuff in there that's just thrown in there, it's not even, there's no, it's just in there. If it's good, it needs to be taken out, cleaned up, and stored up off of the ground.
Okay.
And we need to make a good inventory sheet.
Okay.
And everything, that lawnmower, the drive belt broke on it. And from mowing the grass that I've mowed with it, I would get rid of it. There's no deck adjustment. It's no preventative maintenance accomplished on it at all that I've seen.
And just from what I've seen out there, a lot of this, I think a lot of that's just out in the shed and some of the equipment around here. I think that may take a little bit of time. So is this something you guys think that we should start maybe later this month and just separate it first and do an inventory, and then decide what equipment we don't want, that we do want, that we want to save for future use or auction off? Would you guys like to set a date to start out there, just to go out on a...
I think we need to get budget done first.
Okay. After the budget, definitely. I think the budget is the most important thing. July, maybe start in July, going through after we get past the budget process, going through that. Let's set a date in July so that we can at least have a date set and something agreed that we'll go through as a group and go through and kind of look at some of that stuff. Is there a Saturday, maybe in July, Saturday morning, that we can get out there, just kind of do an unofficial walkthrough or an official walkthrough? Does that work for everybody? Does that sound good?
As long as I'm not mandatory for work.
As long as you're not
You
mandatory.
never know until the day before.
Okay. You want to set for July 11th, and we could do this a couple of times, but I'd like for all of us just to walk through
That's Saturday.
that Saturday morning.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Jackson will be able to be here. IFYR kicks off that week. He will
Okay.
be unavailable if you need him to be here.
Okay. I tell you what, can we put this on the agenda for our, to pick a date? Well, I tell you what, let's do this.
We were all going to get together, so maybe we could call a special meeting.
Yeah. Let's,
Why don't we just have everybody, hold it till our budget meeting, put it on the agenda for the budget meeting.
well, can we put this on the agenda for the budget meeting? Okay. Okay. Let's put this on the agenda for the budget meeting when Mike's here, so we can have everybody. And I think your idea is probably good if we all walk through, because I know the fire department has a bunch of stuff over there that I have no clue if they need or use or if it's just stored. So I want to make sure what's over there, and then let's get what we have. So if you'll just put table this for the budget meeting, that's okay. Thanks. Yeah, I sure don't want to have it on July 4th.
We want to discuss it the 15th of June for the budget.
Yeah, just kind of, so it'll give you some time to think about some ideas. Any other questions on that? Thoughts or anything? Okay, moving on to agenda item number 13, review and discussion and possible action to open the bidding process for contracting the position of groundskeeper and mowing duties. I'd like to move that we open a bid process starting tonight and close it at and have it ending at the day before our next meeting in July, and have those bids open at that time, and us decide what bid works better for or that we agree with. For groundskeeper, I've talked to several people and said, you guys, we're going to open it up for bids. So if you want to come out and do some work, come and look what's out here and just give us a bid. I didn't give them an idea of what we want done. I just said, this is what we have. You come and bid on it.
I'd also suggest that you include the 7.5 acres under Station 2.
Good point. I didn't think about that. 7.5 acres. Now, is that behind it? Is that with the best chemical stuff?
That's the 7.5 acres.
Has it not been included with the groundskeeper on this facility?
That's called the
Okay.
7.5 acres over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Separate.
It's supposed to all be.
It's all supposed to be done.
That's a good point, because I do want to, once we get that cleaned up, have that part of
But
this.
it's never been mowed like that.
Yeah.
Well,
It's probably matched.
we can't really get in there and have somebody go in there and mow and weed it until that's cleaned up.
Yeah.
Now, you can mow a good portion of it.
Is there, I saw some on the back side of it. Is it right there that you can?
Contamination,
Huh?
even with the contamination that's in there. It's okay to mow it and walk around
What
it.
they're talking about contamination for is just around the tank battery.
No, that's not what the lady said. She said it was pretty contaminated, but yes, we'll make sure to include that. I agree. I completely forgot about that, so I appreciate that. But yes, to include the 7.5 acres around the station number 2, once that's cleaned up. I don't know that I want anybody over there doing any work until that's cleaned up. And then let's open that for bidding. You guys pass it out. I'd like to put officially, do we need to put a bid process?
I would.
Statement?
We're going to post the job description as well.
And I would probably recommend having an earlier cutoff date. That way it gives you guys time to actually give copies to each of you.
Okay.
Instead of everybody getting it the night of
Okay.
the meeting. And so maybe like the
Including
Wednesday
this 20
before.
acres out here?
I'm not including the 20 acres, I don't think. If somebody wants to include that in their bid, I mean, I would tell somebody, hey, there's 20 acres out there if you want to brush hog it once a month or once every 6 months. I'd say we're open to let people that know that kind of business come and look at
You're going
it.
out for bid, you're gonna have to have
Yeah.
something written down as to what the bids are.
Okay. If you guys think we need to have a list of things that need to be set, okay. I think we'll do that. Does anybody want to work on that, or?
I will.
Okay. Let's table this just for our budget meeting, just so that Tommy can have a list of things that need to be done for the bid, and we'll open the bid at that time, and we'll carry it over to July if we need to. Is that good with everybody? Any other questions? Same thing with agenda item number 14, review and discussion of possible action to open bidding process or contracting the position of building custodian. You know this better than probably all of us. What things need to be done on the custodian, for a custodian to come in?
Make sure that the bathrooms are clean, they're stocked with paper towels and toilet paper.
Okay.
Also, anytime if there is an event here, they need to come in and check to make sure that there's anything on the floor that can't be gotten up. And also, they're going to have to deal with stripping it and waxing it.
Yeah. Did you say stripped it, the floor stripped and polished? Okay.
Can't we do the, we should be able to get somebody to come in and do a strip and wax. I wouldn't add that to the custodian. Do we have that equipment?
If I'm not mistaken, I think somebody was hired to come in and strip it and wax it the last time.
And we don't have that equipment on hand, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know if we have a buffer or not.
That inventory list would be used.
Yeah.
If we have the equipment, that's
In
reasonable.
that closet.
Okay.
You're right, it should be.
Okay. What we'll do is we'll make a list, and we'll do some visual checking on the buffer polisher. Add this to our meeting, our budget meeting as well, and then we'll make a list. Any other questions, discussion about that?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
There's these fluorescent lights inside the men's restroom, the fixture in the ceiling. The hinges are broken where that little cover will, it's supposed to fall down.
Okay.
So you can change the bulbs. It's broken and it won't stay up.
Okay. Who do we get to fix stuff like that, the electrical stuff? Is that, would that be Shawnee Lighting?
I talked to an electrician, and he said that his company does stuff like that. I think we should get a bid on just removing and replacing that, updating the ones that are broken.
Okay.
And he also said that they could do the emergency lights and the exit lights.
Okay. I don't think that's anything we need to get a bid for, do we? I mean, that's part of our budget. We can go ahead and have somebody come and check that. Let's go ahead and get the number before and go, or after the meeting, and go ahead and at least get them to come out and look at them, wherever.
Get a bid.
Yeah, we just need to get those fixed, especially the emergency, the exit lights. We need that stuff done ASAP. So, yeah, just get them to stop by and give us a bid, and we'll take a look at that.
So I'm gonna take care of that.
Absolutely. Anything else on the contract? Okay, agenda item number 15, review and discussion of possible action on the use of individuals from the Youth and Family Services doing community for service for the town of Bethel Acres. Now, I received a phone call last week from a gentleman in Shawnee from Youth and Family Services, and evidently these are teens, young adults that have to do volunteer work for whatever reason they got into trouble or whatever. There's not very many places that they can do volunteer work, so for them to adequately suffice their requirements, they need places to go and work. And I just want to bring it up for discussion for the town. I did talk to him about insurance and liability. He says it's strictly volunteer. These guys show up and they volunteer whatever they can do, they'll do, whether it's painting, cutting weeds. They do it for the expo in several different places. And all we do is sign off on that. I think it's a great asset for the town. I think it forces them to pay back for some of what they've done, and helps our community a little bit.
Is that something that we have to provide a supervisor?
Yes, we do, because we have to sign off on the approval of the time. So I mean, it's something we set up. He gives us some notice and says, I have 4 young men and 1 lady that needs some community service. Do you have something for 3 or 4 hours they can do? There's a lot of stuff that, I would like to see a lot of the trash picked up and down Hardesty 102, the different roads. I know, that's what, I'm not sure if I do either. But there's a lot.
Maybe something the ball association could do and get them up there.
Yeah, and actually, we told them they could come up Saturday during the tournament work, and it was short notice for them, but I think the town, the park always needs trash picked up, stuff like that. Do you see any issues with that? With volunteer them coming out and? Okay. I move that we approve the use of the Youth and Family Services doing community service for the town of Bethel Acres on a volunteer basis only. Second. I have a second. Any other questions about that? I mean, I want you guys to. I saw a win-win. Oh, yeah, okay, I just saw a win-win. I didn't know if it's something we could just say, hey, come on out. I wanted to be sure and run it past everyone here. Would you call roll, please?
Panovich?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Smothers?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes. Motion was approved and accepted. Okay, agenda item number 16, discussion, consideration, possible action to remove Paul Fernovich as Bethel Acres Fire Chief and place him back into the ranks as firefighter for the good of the service. And this is where, Paul, I've done I have some questions that I got to tell you over the last month since this was brought up a month and a half ago, that some things have just spinning around in my head on this, that I have some questions, and if you don't mind, I'm going to ask several of these just for my clarification. You did hit on the fire department training that you have coming up. Was that first responder 1? Is that what you have?
Firefighter 1.
Was it
We've got a
firefighter?
first responder class coming up.
Okay.
And firefighter, we're working on getting the firefighter 1 class going.
Okay. And I remember Mr. Simpson, is that right? Is that Mr. Simpson, is that your name back there?
Yes.
Okay, I remember when he was here.
What is your question?
No, that's all right. I just remember when he was here last time. I just want to make sure I called you by name correctly. You were talking about the firefighter 1 training, and has it been, when was the last time it was offered here at the fire department for our firemen?
Well, the last couple of years, there's been a lot of turmoil up at Stillwater, and you had to have a minimum of probably 15 people to get a class going.
Okay.
We didn't have 15 firefighters. We tried getting classes going from surrounding departments, and if you set a class up, the instructor come in and he didn't have 12 guys, he turned around and walked out the door. Wouldn't put the class on.
Okay. So it's been 3 years plus, 4 years?
More than that,
Well,
probably.
Now you gotta understand, a lot of guys went to
Sir,
the
please.
departments.
I've got public comments up here. I'm not gonna let this get out of control like we did last time. So,
And at the time, at one time, we had almost everybody in the department had firefighter. We didn't have a need for the classes.
okay. So that was just my question on the training. So it's been a long time, 5 years plus probably. I'm just trying to get a gauge. Okay, 5 years plus.
That we've had any number. Right now, we've got 4 or 5 guys that need the class.
Okay. My second question has to do with the approval, and this is my learning, the approval of new firefighters. I'm sure the fire department has an a minimum requirement for potential new firefighters, do they not? Just, I'm not asking you to list all of them, but what would some of those be for a new firefighter to come on board?
There is no requirement for a new firefighter coming on board.
Okay,
A gentleman fills out an application, it goes in front of the membership. The application is reviewed by the officer team, comes in front of the membership, and the membership either votes him on or doesn't vote him on.
okay,
If he's brought on as a probationary firefighter, he's on probation for 1 year. During that year, he has certain things that he is required to try to get, okay? And as long as he is trying to get those classes, at the end of that year, he is voted, he comes before the membership for a vote to be voted on permanent.
okay. And then, did I understand you correctly in talking to you one time that after he's voted on and you guys, you bring that application before the board to
It's usually, the application has been brought before the board, it's usually, in the past, the board has said, if you guys vote him on, it's good enough for us. We don't need to vote every guy on the fire department.
is that in one of our resolutions that we're supposed to approve those?
The board has the ultimate decision.
Okay. So just minimum requirements for a firefighter, would it be, obviously driver's license? Do they do a background check?
Yes.
Okay, background check.
Valid driver's license, background check.
No CDL certification or anything like that? Okay. One thing that I got very concerned about when it comes to the fire department was you have how many trucks total?
10.
10 trucks. How many of those trucks have standard transmission?
1, 2, 3.
So 3 trucks that have standard
4.
transmission, 4? Okay. The ability to drive a standard transmission, wouldn't that be a necessary requirement for the fire department?
If he can't, he has to go through an EVT class before he's allowed to drive a truck. Emergency vehicle driver training.
Okay. Do
If
they
he
teach
doesn't
them?
know how to drive a standard, then he's not gonna drive that truck. Okay? They'll
Okay.
teach him. But every firefighter has to go through every year emergency vehicle driver training.
Okay, because I understand you have a new firefighter that can't drive a standard transmission. There's a lot of trucks that require standard transmission, so
He was out Sunday, he was
Okay.
one of the firefighters.
so we're teaching them how to drive
Training.
standard. Okay.
Can I go back for a second?
Yeah.
When you're hired in, is that hired in after the firefighters vote on it or after the interview?
What was that now?
When a new applicant comes in, turns in an application, and he's interviewed and is brought in front of the firefighters, they vote him on, is that the date he is hired?
Yes.
And he's not to be put on a pension until the date following that, right?
Correct.
Well, I've got some papers here I'm gonna show you. This was mine. I used to be a firefighter here, remember?
Wait a minute, let me explain something about the pension.
So
Now,
he could
let me
be-
explain something about the
He could be
pension.
put on a pension a month prior to being hired as a fire department? Is that true?
The pension papers,
Just answer my question.
He's answering this question. Let's keep this.
can he be put on a pension prior to being hired?
Before being hired?
No.
What is that, favoritism or neglected
Okay,
duties?
hold on. Let's keep this civil.
I'm just asking.
The paperwork is sent into the pension
Date at the
system.
bottom and the date at the top when it's stamped by the pension office.
I do see this application, we need to obviously look into this. It does say the pension received July 16th when it was stamped by the firefighter pension, and that is actually, looks like 3 weeks before the person's date of hire, which was
Is that because it's family member or favoritism?
Yes, sir. I'm just looking at the date on the front of it there.
It might be considered like poor record keeping.
We'll go back and pull out his application. The day he fills the application out is considered when he's voted on. If you look at the calendar, probably 8/6 is probably the first day of the month.
Okay. I'll let you keep those if you need to. Do you have any other questions regarding that?
No, not
Okay.
that one.
Okay. I have a couple more, then I'll let you ask your questions, and Tom, if you have any. Paul, I have to say that working in groups of people, that morale is a very important part of any group or organization. I hear some crazy stories that go on during the meetings, On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best morale that's possible, where would you rate your department on a scale from 1 to 10?
Right now,
Right now,
probably 6 or 7.
6 or 7, okay. I understand that this wasn't the first time, but it's a normal situation where you have a shoving match in the middle of your meetings.
A shoving match?
A shoving match or men chest to chest and standing squaring off.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Never had a shoving match? Okay.
No.
You ever have firemen threaten to do something to other people and call them outside
In a meeting?
during a meeting or after?
No.
a meeting?
It's a council meeting.
Okay. So on a scale from, 6 or 7 on a scale from 1 to 10. Okay.
Why don't you ask the firefighters about their morale?
Ma'am, I want to keep this, I promise you.
Yeah, you take comments from other people, but not from his side. That's not fair.
Who did I take comments from? I haven't taken any comments. I'll take your comments, but I'm not going to play this game tonight. I will ask you to leave, so please, I'm asking you politely, please, just keep it to yourself. And my big, I have a very concerning issue regarding station number 2. At our last budget meeting, this was very, very disconcerting to me. You have a $6,000 budget item that was discussed in the budget. We talked about it. And you recall that discussion?
Yes, I do.
Okay, in that discussion, you stated that the state fire marshal inspector said that he would not approve that wall, but we could build it after he, wait, I'm sorry, but we could build it after he left.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name? Because I have to question him on that.
Okay.
Do you have his name?
The reason,
Sir, do you
let
have
me
his
explain to
name?
you the reason
Will
we
you
wanted
please-
that.
If you don't have his name, I'll write no. Let me follow up with my last question. Do you not have his name?
I don't remember,
Okay.
right offhand, I don't remember which particular fire marshal was out there.
Okay.
But let me explain to you the reason they wanted that. Because they said somebody would be living there. And I said, nobody is going to be living or sleeping here. This is a volunteer fire department. There is not anybody sleeping or living in this station.
Okay. Hypothetically, if I'm fire chief and the state fire marshal says you cannot build a wall there, it's out of my mind. What concerns me is that you feel it necessary to go ahead and disobey the state fire marshal's guidelines pertaining to the building code and build a wall. And you said that on tape the other day, which really kind of blew my mind that you admitted that you were going to completely disregard. And for me, as our fire chief, I find that very, very concerning. I have to tell you. On a scale from 1 to 10, you're grading your department's morale as a 6 or a 7. So you're giving, at best, you're giving them a C. At really, it's probably a D or an F. I mean, because I've talked to a lot of
You
firemen.
know why?
Why it's D or an F?
Yeah. Do you know why it's there?
That's what I'd like to fix.
Okay, do you know why it's there?
Why is it there?
Because of this crap that's going on right now. Excuse my language.
That's okay. Because of, you're pointing at Eddie because of this?
That's right.
So Eddie's the reason behind your bad morale problem on the fire department?
It went
Eddie,
on for years
another
after I got
gentleman
there,
sitting out there in the
years
audience.
after I was here. It was bad before I got here, Paul. And it continued to stand bad while I was here. Y'all showed me that firsthand. And it's continued being bad after I left.
Do you have any questions?
I have to question.
Neil, at the minimum department,
Yeah, I have a request.
okay,
You guys keep minutes at your fire meetings?
yes.
I think those probably should be included, especially now, for the fire department report, so we could see.
You're welcome to come and see them, we have them all on record.
Just like the inventory sheet.
We have inventory. It's probably about 150 or 200 cages. Probably 2,000 or 3,000 items. Everything's on inventory.
Do you have any other questions?
I have a question
I
on
go
the
to every
training.
meeting, Neil.
have
I go
a
around the
question on
room.
training.
Excuse me, I'm speaking. I go around the room, and I asked every firefighter, is there anything you'd like to say? One by one. There's firefighters sitting out here, you can ask any one of them if I don't do it. They have an opportunity to say anything they want.
I believe you asked the question, yes, I believe that completely. What I've heard from them though is there, a lot of them are scared to say what they feel because of retribution. I'm telling you what they
You can ask any one of them out here, any one of them, if there's been any retribution because of anything they've ever said.
Okay.
I got retaliated against.
Yes, sir.
I came up to the last
This
board
is the
meeting.
votes from the firefighter Friday.
I was retaliated against because I was waiting on a pension for a year and a half, so I brought it to the
That's
board.
a lie, Eddie.
Sir?
I've got it. So I brought it to the board.
Neil, let me explain something to you.
The reason was that my name wasn't mentioned due to retaliation. And they agreed that there would be no retaliation if they mentioned my name. So I raised my hand and mentioned my name. As soon as I walked out the door, I got jumped on by his son,
Okay.
and it followed up right by him.
Okay.
There's witnesses, and there's also a police report down at the Shawnee Level Explanation back at it.
Okay. And I understand there's been some issues and aside from what you just said, I have to go back. Do you have any other questions? Okay. Regarding the fire department training, I mean, I've looked over the fire chief's responsibilities over and over and over again to try to wrap my mind about what the chief's responsibilities are and what the responsibilities are. Fire department training, the training hadn't been offered in 5 years. We're forcing the firemen of the fire department to have a course that hasn't been offered in 5 years for them to be an officer. It was asked, has been asked several times. What do they think you're passionate about?
I don't. You want me to do it?
No. I get it the right way. Figures are getting the let me finish, go ahead and say what I have to say, because it's been asked by the firemen to please change the requirements for the officers, and you guys constantly say, we're not going to dumb down our fire department, which I totally agree with, but we're not allowing our firemen to succeed in the manner which I think they should. Regarding the approval of new firefighters, I mean, I mean, that one just kind of confuses me. The morale issue in your fire department, Paul, I think is horrible. If the morale of my team at my job were a 6 or a 7, they would have gotten rid of me a long time ago, and there'd be no questions asked because everybody would understand why. Not having the renomination of your officers when it wasn't held the first time, we asked you, gave the opportunity, go have your nominations with your firemen. You guys do this. You had no nominations, you didn't offer it. But you chose to have a private citizen, again, I love Rick Stiles, but you chose to have a private citizen, you know, you didn't have one of your officers count the votes. Some of those things, and then the station, the wall, totally disregarding what the fire marshal said. There's a lot of things there that really confuse me.
Let me explain something to you about Firefighter 1.
Okay.
Firefighter 1 classes have been available, not here at this place. They have been available in different places around the state. If any one of those guys really wanted it that bad, they could have gone someplace. I would have been more than happy to get them in it. There have been times where we said, hey, there's a class in Mulvey or Stillwater or here or there. There have been classes, nothing around here in central Oklahoma.
Yeah, I would agree with you that if they really wanted to, but these are guys that have full-time jobs and families to support. As much as you guys like to say this is not a volunteer position, it's completely 100% a volunteer position. They give their lives and their guts to go out and support this community, fight fires, show up when they're tired, and we're limiting their growth in the fire department because we're forcing them to have a class or a course that they can't get to. That I find completely absurd.
That is a problem statewide, you know.
Then I think if it were up to me, I would change my SOGs or my guidelines so that these guys could have, take it off, make it open to where it's fair for all the guys, all the firemen to have everything they need and advance. They can only advance so far. And you know, for whatever reason, I agree that they need the firefighter one. I agree that someone has to have it. From where I sit, there's a whole lot of training. I mean, if you haven't had, you know, our last meeting, we were talking about training. You know, when was the last training class that there's been? That's one of the chief's job requirements. That's one of your duties.
I kind of have a problem with the training here because I sit through NIMS class, NIMS training here. I went online and it's almost a 3-hour course on the training models. I sat through a 45-minute slideshow and was given answers to 3 courses. By Steve and Paul got the same answers. He's sitting right next to me. In order to get a grant within 2 weeks, it had to be deadline. It had to be turned in within 2 weeks in order to get a grant. Is that not fraud?
If it's not fraud, it's probably just unethical. I'm sure they, you know, at most it's fraud, at least it's unethical and probably unbecoming a fire chief. Any other discussion on this?
I'd like to make a motion to remove Paul as chief, place him back in the ranks of firefighter with the result that he not to be, have an officer's position again. Here's Bethel.
I second. Jay, we call roll, please.
Fernandez,
No.
Jones,
Yes.
Smothers,
Can I ask a question real quick? I just want to make sure, back into the ranks as a firefighter for the good of the service, we can't add, but somebody told the countywide that we should, I don't want the district attorney coming to look for us again.
Well, if that's the case, then I'll make a motion to remove him, place him back in the ranks of the firefighter for the good of the service.
As stated in agenda.
As
item
stated
16.
in agenda item 16.
Okay, I second. We call roll, please.
Fernandez,
No.
Jones,
Yes.
Smothers,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes. Motion's been approved and passed. Agenda item number 17, discussion, consideration, of possible action to select an interim fire chief for Bethel Fire Department until the Bethel firefighters select one for consideration, and that selection be presented to the Board of Trustees. I don't see us selecting an interim at this time. I think we have a very capable assistant fire chief. I think the fire chief duties will fall on his shoulders for a period of 1 month. In that month, we'll figure out what we're going to do on a fire chief at that time. So, do I need a motion on that, or is that just?
It's on the agenda, so you'll probably move to like strike agenda item 17 if you're really not gonna
Okay.
or postpone it until.
Okay, I move to go ahead and strike agenda item number 17 then.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. Any discussion? Okay, I have a second. Shannon, we call roll, please.
Fernandez,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smothers,
Yes.
Davis.
Yes. Okay. Old business. I think we've kind of hit on some of the old business with anything that we've missed.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
This is one that apparently we did wrong the first time I stood up here. And this is a contract, actually it's a cooperative agreement with the citizens of Potawatomi Nation. Reading through here, it would appear that we're supplementing their income with $1,000 a month. They're doing what they already do anyway.
Did we not table this for this meeting? I'm sorry. Did we not table that for this meeting, the CPN contract? Discussion of that?
Yeah, you wanted to leave that for the budget.
Okay.
You just asked me to put a copy of the contract so the other
Okay.
gentleman could see it.
Okay. Can we officially talk about this under old business since it was something we discussed before but not on the agenda? Should it?
Can't take any, discuss
Yeah.
it, can't take any action.
Yeah, can't take any action.
That's correct.
Okay.
Discuss it.
Okay, let's go ahead and discuss it. I'm sorry, Tom, I just want to make sure.
On paragraph 11, right in the middle, this agreement may be canceled by either party at any time without cause. the discretion of the town of Bethel Acres to terminate this agreement may be exercised by its city council or its mayor.
Something interesting about this contract, after our first meeting that this came up, well, actually when Mike Booth was here with us with the sheriff's department, I did a non-scientific self-poll that I just did. As I was driving back and forth in my time down Hardesty or 102, I decided to keep track of how many Citizen Potawatomi patrol cars I saw or sheriffs, Potawatomi County Sheriff's patrol cars. I told my wife this morning, it's kind of interesting, I told her I counted 7 times that I've seen the Oklahoma County or Potawatomi County Sheriff's Department cars in my routes throughout the month. Now that's, again, this is non-stop scientific, it's just the number of times that I've seen it. As of this morning, I told her it was 0 for the citizens of Potawatomi Nation, but actually on the way here this afternoon from Sonic, 1 passed me. So 7 times this month I did see the Pot County Sheriff's Department, which actually validates the fact that when Mike Booth was here, him stating that he's set up a grid and he has some guys. I was very thankful for that. I wouldn't have known those guys or what area they work. So I feel very comfortable that we obviously discussed this later on, but I felt very comfortable that the Pot County Sheriff's Department is patrolling our streets and taking care of us. The citizens of Potawatomi Nation, I'm not saying they aren't, I'm just saying that I didn't see them. I saw one today. So I do like the fact, along with the discussion, the reason this was brought up and this was signed, I agree, at the time was probably very necessary to eliminate traffic accidents and major fatalities, which none of us want. I think over the years, though, I think since 2006, I think we have a new sheriff. I think we have a new mindset with the Sheriff's Department, and I think they're including us more in their patrol. In saying that, I think we need to definitely revisit this at our next meeting. So, do you guys have any problems putting this on our meeting, our special meeting, just to talk about for a few minutes for our budget meeting? Regardless of not having at any time, I mean, I think we want to make sure and make that a, whatever we do it, let them know on a timely basis. So can we put this as an agenda item, Jane, on our budget meeting? Yeah. What started out to be a budget meeting is going to be a special meeting, it sounds like. It's not a special meeting, by the way. Public comments.
Can I say something before we dive off into that? Just so everybody knows, I'm going to make basically an outline of all of our property, 7.5 acres on the corner. What's that whole corner, right? On Patterson and...
Goes down, over, back, over.
Okay. I'm going to make all that, and I'm going to highlight the areas that need to be taken care of, and progressively, I mean, obviously around the station. We come up here, what, a week ago?
It was 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks ago, we cut the ditch. I don't know if everybody noticed that, but we put in a lot of hard work up here in one day. So, just so you guys will know, so the public knows, it's going to be laid out in not great detail, but it'll be pretty detailed for what needs to be cut. That way we can get everybody's, not everybody's, but we can get into it.
It's a bid's okay.
And so when they do make a bid, they know what they're bidding on.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That's pretty much it.
Good. Any other public comments? Sir?
Before you get to public comments, I do want to point out, which you might not want to actually kind of go by it tonight since you didn't, but if they want to speak, they need to sign this and then you'll announce their name.
Okay. I did have a good idea, by the way, regarding the public comments, moving those up to the front part of the agenda. I talked to Greg Luther about it this week.
Right.
And he said, bad idea. leave them at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good idea, and so I did pass that along.
Yeah, that's not good.
Okay. So, yes, you know, we're,
From now on, they really need to sign in, and then you'll announce their name
Yeah.
in the order.
You need to post that. You'll need to have information stating
Right.
that they need to do that, posted somewhere when they
on
come
the wall.
in.
I agree. I thought about that today, that, you know, when people walk in, I think that the way I've handled the meetings the last couple of times, I've allowed a lot of discussion. And I think we are, I will, my wife will laugh when I talk about laminating, but I'll make a little sign and laminate it and put it up out there so that people understand it's clear. I agree. But, so will you pass that list on over here so we can,
Nobody gets to speak unless they're totally recognized.
until they're recognized, that's correct. That's correct. I have Melvin Potter.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple, 3 items that I had questions about. Number one, would you have to have a official meeting to open and to get a quorum to have your inventory or your meeting for all this? Well, since there's going to be more than 3 of you, 3 or more of you there?
Well, that's a good question. Paul did bring up that we would need a meeting. So if that's something, we're going to talk about that at our, you know, future. If we do need to have a meeting and everybody walk with us, take a look at that, I don't see a problem with that. I think that's something we have to do.
The second item is the equipment, material that you're going to dispose of. Do you not need to have that surplus in a meeting? And
Yes, absolutely, yeah, and that's what I think we've talked about, is looking out there. There's a lot of stuff that we need to have a surplus sale of some kind and do that, you know, announce it, advertise it, stuff like that.
At one meeting, Rochelle had mentioned a website. Scott Hawkins, a Pot County Sheriff's Deputy, builds websites, and he will build your website for you for free and furnish you a great number of email addresses. He's just waiting for a phone call from someone from his organization.
Okay, will you get with me afterwards and give me his information, and I'll write that down? You have a minute remaining, you have anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
When we do our walkthrough, we're just gonna do it quick. See what we need to do.
Yeah, I think we have to have a meeting if there's 3 of us, and
I mean, you put this off anyway for the special meeting, is that not correct?
to discuss, you know, what we're going to do then.
Right, so, I mean, really, what you're asking, really kind of.
But we're not gonna have, when we discuss it at that meeting, that's not necessarily saying we're gonna have a definite answer of what we're gonna sell.
No, you can't have more than 2 board members. You have more than 2 board members, you have to call a meeting.
Well, I understand that.
More than 3 guys go out there. You have to
So-
declare the meeting.
Yeah, so me and Paul can walk out there and go through this stuff and say, and Paul says, you know, this is definitely stuff we need, or this is stuff we don't need. And so,
I mean, we can do it as part of a meeting. What I'm saying is, we're not gonna come up with a list at that time.
No, I don't
of
think
what's
we have
gonna be
time.
sold. No.
yeah, I don't think we have
There's already a
time.
list.
There's an inventory list somewhere we hopefully will find. Good question. man. Anything else on that?
No, I just wanted to, I think, from what Mr. Potter said, it sounded like we were gonna come up with a list of things right then.
Okay.
And we're just gonna basically determine, even if we need to have, if it's not enough, I mean, it would be silly to have it if there's 5 or 6 things.
It's gonna be more than 5 or 6.
Well, I know that for a fact.
All right, our next person is Mr. Stiles. Yes, sir.
My name's Rick Stiles, and I'm just a private citizen. But I'm a private citizen that's concerned enough about our fire department that I've attended several meetings. I'm a private citizen that tries to go to the very bottom of a problem and find out what the problem is, instead of listening to phone calls or letting people gather up around me. I go seek out the information. I feel lucky that I have been allowed and invited to attend firefighter meetings, because they will let you very quickly know that you're not a firefighter. They know their business, they're very professional. They know what they want, they know what they need, they know how to get it done. They voted for that man, unquestionably. There were no strong arm tactics, there were no anything. They're behind you 100%. They have a morale problem. because they do that time and time again. And they constantly get brought up in front of this board and have to defend their actions. They are concerned now, the rules and regulations that they put together, that they worked on for, I know, 10 years. Are those rules and regulations out the window? Is there an answer to that?
I don't have an answer for you, sir. I'm just listening to your comment. I'm sorry.
They're very concerned about the qualifications for their officers. I listened to them discussing around the table across the board. I didn't involve myself, but around the table and across the board, they said, no, we're not going to lower our expectations. If anything, we might need to set the bar higher, because our lives depend on this training. Our lives depend on the people that lead us. I was very, very impressed with what professional department we have, what committed people we have. And I was very, very concerned about the interference that they're getting from this board when they're trying to do their duty to save our lives, to save our property, and doing it on a shoestring budget. And then I listened to this tonight. I heard excuses. Personally, I think my earlier beliefs were proven true tonight. I hope this board will reconsider what they did and look at all of the ramifications. Look at all of the costs to this town. Look at all of the benefits that have been brought to this town. And see if you really believe what you just decided. I think if you look at it candidly, if you take a well-rounded viewpoint, I think we've come to a different decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siles. We have no other public comments that are signed in. Would you like to make a comment since you didn't see the sign-in sheet?
Sure, you bet I would.
Okay, please go ahead. I'll sign you in. What was it? What's the first?
Paul Simpson,
Paul Simpson.
Rural Fire Coordinator, Region 5.
Okay.
As I stated at the last meeting, which I don't think you gave relevance to, is that I told you that fire service training has not been offering that level 1 firefighter class for the last 2 years. We took that directly from them. We deal with them directly as fire coordinators across the state to look and see what training is needed and try to get those training classes implemented out there. What they've done, they've hired 4 specialists now that have a quadrant in the state that now can come to the fire departments and help them adapt their training to what the greatest need is. For example, if you only have 4 or 5 guys that need level 1 firefighter, but you've got 12 guys that need first responder, what should be your priority? Okay, that's something that the fire department has to address. It's one of the chief's responsibilities and his training officer responsibilities to do that. I don't think you give any consideration towards that in listening to your comments tonight. My job is I'm going to deal with whoever you put in place as your fire chief, okay? Fire chiefs come and go. I mean, for whatever reason, as the authority, you make that decision. On behalf of Paul and the firefighters here at Bethel, I made a comment that I thought they did a very good job. They represent the town very well. And I'm not sure that that was taken in high esteem either. But anyway, I have some concerns over what I've heard tonight. And I hope, as far as morale, I will tell you with 92 fire departments that I have contact with, that morale is always an issue. Training is always an issue. Funding is a bigger issue. And that I would ask that the town look and support these guys because they are volunteers. They have a full-time job. They do what they can for their community. I would expect you to support them 100%.
Okay. I have a comment. I have a comment.
Question.
Not so much a question. When, and I know Rochelle got up at last, we can have someone that's certified to teach that firefighter 1 in-house.
My understanding is now that you can have a firefighter 1 class in-house to meet the in-house requirements, and then you still have to go to Stillwater and meet the burn requirements, firefighter 1. So the majority of the work can be done in-house. That's my understanding.
Okay, and just so everybody's clear, the budget, money. If the fire department needs something, they're gonna get it. And if anything, and one of our line items, and this is completely out of the hat, we need a chainsaw. You can buy a $6,000 firefighter saw, or you can buy a $400 saw and put a $1,000 bar and a chain on it. My question was, is one gonna be enough? And it don't matter if we use it one time a year, if we need it, it should be there. If you need to cut a door open, the tool should be there, and there's no check mark. You got a truck that has a check mark, doesn't have gas, check. There's no manual that tells anybody how to do it. I know they start it up every Monday, but if they go out on Wednesday and it doesn't start up, they can't come back to the Monday and say, hey, we started that. Well, where does it say that you started it? There's no record keeping of any of that. Now, if the fire department needs something, all they have to do is ask. The board that was up here before might have done things different. I can't speak for anybody else that was up here, but I'm telling you right now, anything that they ask for that's job related that they need, they're gonna get it. And I don't.
Let me follow up with the budget. I heard shoestring budget, which seems to be spinning, because let me throw a number at you. The fire department has a budget this year up through the end of June of $69,299. That's full year budget. As of May 4th, the fire department has only spent $26,581. Now, I'm not a math whiz, but that's less than a half of their budget has been spent so far in the year. So the fire department obviously needs nothing.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, I'm saying that they've got $70,000 roughly in their budget to spend, and they've spent half of it. So if anybody tells me anything about shoestring budget, or they don't have what they need, here's the number right here. They're not spending the money.
I don't think anybody's making that statement.
I heard shoestring budget, I heard him say budget over here, and
I would rather pay to give them their training than $6,000 for a wall.
that's exactly right. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm gonna give you another minute.
What was that comment? I didn't hear
He
that.
said he'd rather give $6,000 for the training rather than $6,000 for a wall that's not approved. But go ahead, I'm gonna give you another minute.
Well, I'm not aware of the wall situation.
I'm very aware of the wall situation. It's very unusual.
Okay, I'll discuss that later after the meeting, okay? Because I helped get the grant to build the station, number 2.
Yeah.
I helped counsel Paul on the codes that pertain to that station. And if you change more than 10% of the occupancy, then we had to go with the 2-hour rated wall, okay?
And that's perfect. But you'll find, sir, what I do, I'm not I'm not a hugely, degreed person, but what I do is ask a lot of questions. And if I have a state auditor or a fire marshal that comes in and inspects that, it says that you can't put a wall up, I want to know that guy's name, because I'm gonna call and ask him if he said that.
Yeah,
or if he said that you can't put it up, I can't give you approval, but when I leave, you can do whatever you want, which is what Mr. Fernetovich stated. That I'm going to go straight to the source.
Sure,
So-
and I understand that. That's, I would do the same thing. I would say if there's a comment made that's contrary to what I understand as the code is, then I'm going to research that.
Absolutely.
But I will make this comment. If you remember at the special meeting, I made myself available for any questions you had about the fire department or anything in my expertise, and I received no calls.
Yes, sir. No, sir. And if I thought I had something for you, I would have called you. I just didn't know that you would have the information on the wall, or I would have called you.
Well, I know that if we're talking about the initial wall that we talked about on the 10% occupancy, I do have some information on that.
Okay.
Did you have any questions for me, any board members?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I've talked to some, and when I say some, I mean 3 or 4 firemen, and I probably tend to agree with them just by who it is. Everybody has told me personally, not phone calls or anything else, face to face, that they probably wouldn't want nobody else is going to do the job that Paul's done as fire chief. That's not necessarily the root of the problem. But to kill the root, you got to get rid of the weed. Well, I think Paul's just part of the weed. He's not the complete root system. So I mean, he had instructions to re-elect, to redo the elections, all of them. From the meeting, I would also like to see the percentage of calls that all the officers have been on. Because if you're a captain, you should have attended way more than 1% of the calls. And if you can't make that many calls, then you don't need to be the captain. Now, I don't care if you're the, whatever you want, you've had more training than anybody in the state. It don't do me any good if you ain't out there. So, because you've got X amount of training, doesn't do me any good if you're standing on top of the hill talking to TV reporters, and you got 4 guys down in the ditch busting their butt, and they got to do everything from start to finish. One guy stays clean, 4 guys are killing themselves, and they got a full-time job. Anybody that ever wanted to go to training before, I don't think this board would have any problem whatsoever giving them 2 weeks of salary to supplement their income to go get that training. I don't think anybody's ever asked for it. I don't know. But there's problems way beyond what we think. This is not what we think, by the way. This is a calculation of several different opinions. And I don't think anybody's going to do the work that Paul's done. And I appreciate everything he does. They needed the water truck at Golden Rule. Golden Rule needed water. Paul come up here and washed the truck by himself so he could put it out there and make it look good. So I don't think anybody doubts his dedication to the town. That's not what it's about. The morale that the people that I've talked to, I would score it more like on a 2, just from what I've heard. And people are afraid because of the comments that have been made in meetings. That's why I would like to see all the minutes. You can't argue with Steve's opinion and my opinion. That doesn't matter. I got minutes of my meeting. I've got a recorded tape. We can go get it right. All the evidence is right there. If I got their minutes, we can compare everything. So then it's not our opinion. Because this is not just our opinion. We're not about to let Eddie Jones make this a platform for him to come take his personal differences out on Paul.
Just did.
I tried to limit this.
Yeah.
So, now, whether it happens or not, he ran for the position, he got the position, he put it on the agenda. There's more than enough cause. The rules and regulations, the standard operating guidelines, I've got copies that were presented to you guys several months ago, and they were just tossed aside because we're not going to do that. But see, I can't prove any of that because I don't have the minutes from any of your meetings. So without that, it's basically me saying what I've heard,
So I
which
guess
doesn't carry a lot of weight.
the question
If
is,
you haven't been recognized, please don't speak, sir. We're all going to get a chance. You just have to wait and be recognized. I'm just telling you what.
well, you're not
The budget-
citizen of the town.
The budget.
Behind the station.
Okay, I'm going to stop. So I'm going to have one more comment because she's waiting patiently and she's raised her hands. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, I have,
You have
y'all.
3 minutes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Would you stand,
You were
please?
talking,
Would
my
you-
name is Nikki Smith,
Thank
okay? You're talking about, for the fire department to pretty much lower their standards for the officers. Me being a citizen, I don't want some Joe Blow that doesn't have training coming up trying to save my life or my children's life. I want a person that knows what they're doing and who's had the training. Okay? It is no different than being at a job and somebody getting promoted over you that doesn't know what they're doing. How is that fair? How is that right? How is that going to help the town when you've got somebody that wants the little white hat because their fire chief in there but doesn't know a lick of what they're doing? How does that help the town? How does that help me? How does that help save my kids if they're dying? Explain that one. Leave that in your mind. Okay, would you want somebody that doesn't know a lick of what they're doing if they're trying to save your child's life? No. You want somebody that knows what they're
Let me
doing.
answer that clearly. There are several firemen on that fire department. There's one not sitting in here. There's probably only 2 of those guys that I know without a shadow of a doubt that don't have firefighter 1 that I would be happy to show up at my door if my kids are choking or coding. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. So I answer your question frankly and bluntly, absolutely there are.
But you're talking about
I can
medical training,
explain.
not fire training.
I can
I answered
explain.
her question.
Fire, okay, if my house is burning down, I want somebody to come that knows what they're doing.
Okay, I have an explanation. The guy that has the training responds to 1% of the calls.
Not necessarily.
It's documented. Documented.
He's not the only person on the fire department. There's
Documented,
16 other men on that fire,
1%.
and
The
members on
training
the
has
fire.
1% of the calls. So 1 out of 100, he responds. The guy with no training, who should be getting the training, responds to 80% of the calls.
Okay,
Okay, we're at 30 more seconds and we're done.
these men, just like all of y'all said, have full-time jobs, okay? My husband, he has a full-time job. If he misses his job for training, who's gonna pay his wages? Is the town gonna pay his wages? If the town will pay his wages, he'll do it in a heartbeat. Because we have to survive.
Call up here, put that on the agenda, and ask us for approval.
As of right now,
You better
Not a
be careful
problem.
what promises you make.
it's
I'm
not making any promises.
Yes, you are.
I said, put it on
You
the
just told me to put it
agenda,
on the
and we'll
agenda.
look
That's
at it.
fine. I will be more than happy
Okay.
to have you guys pay my husband's wages so that he can go do what he needs to do.
I'm gonna motion to adjourn.
Everybody say motion for second. We adjourn.
Thank you, folks.
Paul, I'll trust you to turn over everything you need to, what's the assistant fire chief's name? Justin, you'll just turn everything over to him, I appreciate it, sir.
Well, if it's not operational.